Nisambula Vinaka, and a warm welcome to this week's episode of Speak Your Mind. It is so good to have your company. Now, we're living in a time where a lot of us are facing financial difficulties. We have loans, insurance, and credit accounts, etc., to be cleared. So I thought to bring our guest from the Consumer Council to give us some advice on these matters. And this, of course, is in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, it's the media officer, Kalesi Mele. A warm welcome to Speak Your Mind.
Thank you, Louise. It's always a pleasure being back and talking about consumer issues.
Great. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused many workers, as I've said, to lose hours and be unemployed. What financial options are available to the affected people with an existing loan or hire purchase account, for example?
First of all, Louise, I think it's important to acknowledge that these are unprecedented times that we're living in right now. We've heard it on the news. We've seen it. We know someone that may be facing financial difficulty at this time. So the council has a debt management and research officer that looks specifically into financial services and the issues that come about in this sector. Right. And a lot of it has to do with loans and hire purchase. So during this crisis, we've advised consumers, those that are facing financial difficulties, they can come to us and we can help assist them in the restructure of their debts. Mm-hmm. And so this is facilitated, of course, it was made able through the Section 66 of the Consumer Credit Act 1999, which allows consumers to apply for a restructure of their debts, provided that their reasons are valid. Mm-hmm. And this includes a loss of job, right, or unemployment or reduced hours of work. Right. Sometimes consumers have illnesses and they're unable to work. Mm-hmm. These can be considered valid reasons. Wow. And so for us at the council, each case is assessed individually, and we'll see those that are genuine enough for us to be able to assist them. And one of the things that we've noticed at the council is the importance of bringing the cases to us earlier instead of later. Don't sleep on it. If you know that you're facing financial difficulty and you're unable to meet your repayments, it's important that you come to the council. If you haven't done it already and you're facing difficulty approaching the banks, it's important that you come at the earliest.
Okay, well, that would be really nice. I mean, it would make it much easier. Yeah, I mean, for someone who is going through the problems that you just stated.
Definitely.
Because I've noticed such long lines, and even not everyone knows how to use a computer, right? I
Exactly.
mean, we don't know, for whatever reasons, but yes.
And that restructure also has to do with a lot of communication, and also understanding the clauses in the contracts that you've been provided by maybe the banks and also the high purchase companies. Some of the reasons that some consumers may provide may not be what's acceptable to the banks. So it's important that you understand the list of circumstances that the banks provide that make it acceptable for you to apply for that restructure.
Okay, so I mean, obviously you have already given the reasons of how you and when you can do it. So it's all good. The bank's doing a good job, are they?
Yes. I think following the directive by the government through the response budget, they placed a 6-month moratorium on loan repayments and high purchase
So when you
repayments.
say that 6 months, can you explain it in simple words?
Okay, so a 6-month moratorium basically means that the banks will place their repayments on hold. So it's like a repayment holiday for consumers.
Okay, so if it's for on hold, is it for a certain amount of time? Because some might say just 1 month hold.
Yes, so the directive,
it's up to them.
The directive given by the government is 6 months.
Oh, I see.
So it's either the businesses abide by that 6 months, or if they can, and they're willing to say extend the period to more than 6 months, that's entirely up to the banks.
Okay, because what about if for hire purchase and they tell you, for instance, we're willing to reduce this payment, but for only 3 months. Is that right?
Okay. Like I said, we need to assess the case individually. Sometimes when consumers come to the office to ask for debt restructure, sometimes the default in their payments is from before the period started.
Right.
Before the lockdown and the restrictions started.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
sometimes that can affect getting a restructure.
Okay.
Yeah, because then they will have to consider the factors leading up to then when you applied for the restructure as well.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
So if you've been prompt in making your payments
Mm-hmm.
and you've applied for a restructure and your reason is valid,
Mm-hmm.
then of course the companies can provide you with that restructure that you're requesting for. But if you've defaulted with your payments
Mm-hmm.
from before
Yeah.
COVID-19 restrictions,
Mm-hmm.
then that could affect them providing you a restructure.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, that's clear enough. Thank you very much. And if you're listening in and you'd like to ask Kalesi more about what we're talking about, you can call 3220906 or 7732906. So I have mentioned about our credit providers being accommodative and forthcoming with customers faced with financial distress.
Yes, a lot of them are.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the council, if I remember correctly, there were 31 financial restructures that
Okay.
we dealt with in March and April. This is aside from the advisories that we provided.
Mm-hmm.
These are basically loan restructures and hire purchase restructions.
Mm-hmm.
Restructures, sorry. And we still have a lot of consumers calling into the council through our helpline 155. We also still have consumers coming in. Again, they will have to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. But yes, banks and companies are very accommodating during this period. I think they understand the value of their consumers as well, and so they've been willing to assist on that regard.
Well, obviously, I mean, if they're not, you'd probably be getting lots of calls of complaints, wouldn't you?
I would assume so.
Anyway, maybe to the next question now. With the novel coronavirus pandemic impacting the nation, certain traders had been seizing the opportunity to prey on consumers in this difficult time. Some dodgy sellers had been making money out of the suffering, and that was happening, well, shortly after our first case. So what exactly were they doing, and what's the latest development on these kinds of behavior?
If I remember correctly, when when the first case was announced on March 19th, there was an increase in the prices of PPEs, personal protective equipment.
You see, there you are. But sorry, man, we have to come back to that. On Speak Your Mind, you're on Gold FM, only the classic hits, your only classic hits station in the country. Be sure to tune in. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. I'm Louise Kaunisela, and it's a pleasure to have as our guest in the studio from the Consumer Council, the media officer, Kalesi Mele. And, well, we had to go into a break, but I had asked about what exactly, the dodgy traders were doing when the COVID first case came up. And then what's the latest development of this kind of behavior?
Yes, Louise. Sorry, so just to take us back to some of the things that traders were doing, a lot of them had, like I mentioned, spiked up the prices for PPEs, personal protective equipment. Some of them had hoarded goods, and then when they realized that there was a shortage, that's when they hiked the prices. A lot of them some individuals had actually bought the goods and taken it home and thought that they could sell it to others.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a challenge, trying to educate consumers and also trying to encourage traders to act responsibly. Of course, let's not forget there was a time where consumers themselves were panic buying. And so that that contributed to the issue.
Yes. Then I noticed the post that you were making on your Twitter feed about how, giving the shelf life of, flour, dal, which was really interesting. Yeah.
So sometimes when we buy so many products at one time, we forget that the shelf life of the products is only for a certain period of time. And so if you have so many products at home and you can't use them, then it's basically a waste of money and resources in the first place.
Very true. So this was all going on. So what is it like now?
There's a vast improvement. There's still a few traders that I think are still taking advantage of the situation. Just more recently, we've had issues with small shops in the rural communities.
Right, like the little
Yes,
canteens
yes,
that we get.
that that have hiked the prices of goods, sometimes even price control goods. Yes, and
Oh,
so that
no.
becomes an issue, especially in the rural communities where the council is not there all the time.
Right.
Maybe in urban centers we can be able to solve, but if it requires travel, then it'll take a day or two maybe to have to solve those issues and advise the traders that, look, this is a price-controlled item. You cannot sell it above this price.
So you can actually, I'm sure, give them a call maybe?
Yeah, we can.
And like you warn them, look,
Yes.
you shouldn't be doing
Yes.
this. Okay, what happens if, you know, you want them to pay for what they're doing? You know, you have to report it to the other one, the other...
We have to report it to FCCC. The
Right,
council
FCCC,
again
yeah.
is an advocacy organization.
Yeah.
So for us to go to the trader, that's also just like a courtesy to them to say, look, this is the law. You need to abide by it. If we report it to FCCC, then you may likely be charged.
Yeah, that's good. So, I mean, if anyone's listening in right now, you know, if you come across some dodgy trader, dishonest trader, it's just good to give you a call, and then you give them the right channel to...
Exactly.
There's
There's always a process to follow.
Okay.
When we refer cases. At first, at the council, we try to exhaust all our resources in trying to solve the issue.
Okay.
So it may require travel to the shops themselves and issuing them warning letters.
Oh, I see.
And
right.
so if they still don't comply, then we'll issue the referral to FCCC.
So from there, FCCC will give them a punishment.
Yes.
So
They will
it's
charge them, basically.
Okay, they get charged, and they have to go to court.
Yes.
See, they're not nice at all. So, yeah, everybody do the right thing. Otherwise, you find yourself in court. Now, what other advice can you give about adjusting to life changes because of the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think one of the paramount things that we need to consider here is the importance of savings. Okay. From the time the government had announced the budget and the allowances they provided in terms of pulling from your FNPF, and the number of people that had queued up to withdraw, that just goes back to our habits. We need to save for rainy days. It's very important. Okay. The stretch of time with which it'll take for things to normalize is very long.
True.
And so even if the FNPF, you've withdrawn from it, you've withdrawn money from it, it may not be enough to hold you for the length of time before things normalize. So it's important. Always ensure that you have a savings account and that you're constantly contributing to it.
Okay, but then what about if someone doesn't have any money to put in their savings? Okay, what about maybe the suggestion of when they did get their FNPF, maybe they should use it more wisely?
Exactly, that's
like,
true as well.
Maybe you do a little business or something.
You can do a little business. Yeah. You also can do backyard gardening.
Oh, yeah.
Invest in
that's
that.
right. Invest in seeds.
So
and
it ensures
like
that you have food security as well in the homes. And even if you go to the extent of selling it, that's a revenue generating business there.
True. Because I just read in the news this morning, the Minister of Economy saying that the budget that's coming up is going to be a tight purse, but they're actually looking at small businesses and enterprises. So everyone can, I suppose, survive, right?
It's understandable considering the circumstances that we're facing right now.
Yeah.
But small businesses, of course, they have an opportunity largely because the bigger businesses depend on imports. And so the smaller businesses...
A win-win situation.
Yes.
Should be good. Well, that's something nice to hear. Yeah, I mean, because, but for us in Fiji, we have rich soil. I mean, for villagers, they wouldn't even feel the impact of COVID-19. Well, maybe for sugar and buying sugar and butter. But, I mean, they survive every day.
Exactly.
They just live on the sea, the fish, and the land. They don't even have to buy any food, and they got the best healthy food.
True. And I think one of the things that we raise all the time is the fact that we don't have space. We don't have space, especially for us living in urban areas.
Yeah.
But we've seen time and time again the creativity of people to plant in containers,
Right.
to make use of the resources instead of discarding it.
Yes.
They can use that as planting containers or
True.
yeah.
I mean, they could even ask maybe a supermarket for empty, what do you
Yes.
call these, gallons? They can
Yes.
cut it in half and fill
Yes.
it with soil or something
Yes.
like that. Grow
Yeah.
some cabbages and
So
whatnot.
again, it is an adjustment, but it's an adjustment for the betterment of both you and your family.
Yes,
If
I
you're
mean-
really considering the future
Yes.
and how COVID-19 has impacted us individually and as a whole, this is the way forward.
Yes.
You need to ensure that you have food security and sustainability moving forward.
That's so true. And savings, which is very important as well. On Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. We'll be back soon. Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. I'm Louise Kaunisela, and I have in the studio with us the Media Office of the Consumer Council, Kalesi Mele. Thank you so much for sharing with us great advice. Now, we've spoken about how you said looking forward, how we're to adapt to the change. We've spoken about, savings and, being resourceful, right? So I think we've covered that. And we shall move on to the next question on our local vegetables. Now, it's been noticed some prices have risen. Just say, okay, I bought a heap of tomatoes for $2 before the COVID-19 pandemic, and now it's $5. And what's happened is even the quantity has dropped, and with almost half of the heap bad too. I had one of my workmates actually complain about this, and it happened not long ago as well. So during this crisis, everyone should be supporting each other, don't you think? Are they taking advantage of the situation? I mean, what do you have
Well,
to say?
that's the perception that many of us have, the fact that we're supposed to be helping each other. But there are individuals, there are businesses that try and take advantage of the situation. For vegetables, there's so many factors that are associated. One is whether or not the vegetable is in season. If it's not in season, that
Right.
can affect the price of the product as well.
Yes.
Because if you're supplying it, it'll obviously cost you more to grow it and transport it, and so that factors into the price. Again, during the lockdown, we noticed that there was a 250% markup on dalo. Now we were thinking it shouldn't be that much because of course the businesses, the farmers themselves were supplying, but maybe they had factored in costs of traveling to the different borders to have to get the product across. But again, vegetables is not a regulated product. But what we can do at the council is urge traders to be considerate of the struggles of average consumers. A lot of individuals are stretching their finances to ensure that they still have food on the table every day.
True. I mean, sometimes they're really smart. Even before the COVID-19, I used to remember that, they hide the bad side of the fruit.
Yes. So
I get really annoyed when that happens.
So it's important when you go to the market. A lot of people, they just see what's on top
Yes.
and they
Yeah, that's a
and
good
they
point, right?
and they pack it. But it's important if you're buying something like tomatoes or eggplant, always check. Always check everything that's on the tray to ensure that you're getting a good one. So you can always swap it with the market vendor.
True.
If you see it's bad, you can say, you have to change this, you have to change this. I do that all the time. I probably think they hate me at the
I
market.
know. I mean, probably mostly people will think that, they're a bit shy, or mandua to, maybe the one who's selling might say, hey, don't touch don't press it or don't move
Yes.
it, you never know.
Yeah.
But it is our right. We
Yes.
can actually, we're not pressing it or anything.
Yes.
You just want to check
Yes.
that they're selling us something that's in good condition. After all, we're giving money for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're giving good money, so you deserve quality products in return.
Well, I'm glad, Kalesi, that you do that at the market. That's good. So now I'm never ever going to miss out doing that. But I have actually learned a lesson from that, because I mean we have to be one step ahead, right?
They put the fresh ones on top, and then at the bottom it's the bad ones or the old ones, and so it's important that you check everything on the tray.
And you know what used to come in my mind? I used to think, okay, they want to. Do they have bad fruit to start off with? You know, this is before the COVID-19. I says, why they should just be generous? You know, give us a good heap and nothing will go bad. You know, I used to think that way.
But some of them they buy a lot. They keep
Yeah.
it in stock, and so they try and put them together, both the old and the new stock, just to ensure that
Right.
the old stock is, they get rid of the old stock.
Well, I suppose, I mean, they want to survive too.
True,
So, but
exactly.
but I'll tell you one thing. Every time I went to the market, I used to buy dalo, you know, the ones in the plastic. I mean, I've given up on
The
that
cooked
now.
ones?
The cooked ones.
Oh,
Yeah, and I used to always make sure that, you know, they wear the gloves and they pick it.
true.
But I've never had luck in that. Every time I bought a $2 pack, it would be bad. And it just kept happening to me. So I've just stopped altogether now.
Have you tried returning it?
Well, once I did. I was looking for that woman, but then she denied
Yeah.
it. Mm-mm. But they don't know that I have a very good eyesight. I can recognize someone's face for a long time. But that's another problem, see? But I don't know about other people. Maybe it's just my bad luck.
Let's
Yeah.
hope you have better luck next time.
But okay, let's move on with another question. We've done with the vegetables now. So it's all good now? They're all trading their vegetables fairly, or are they still people trying to, you know, make that extra buck?
Again, it'll differ for consumers, eh?
Mm.
If they find that the trader themselves is hiking up the prices and compared to the other traders, it's important for consumers to take responsibility of shopping around. Sometimes
Okay.
we're so accustomed to buying from one vendor
Right.
that we fail to do our duty to go around and shop around and see if the prices are lower for other vendors.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just one of the things that we can do to go around the issue of hiked up prices for vegetables.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kalesi. Good advice there again. Now, through your market surveillance recently, the Consumer Council yet again found a supermarket in the city of Suva selling bad meat. I believe almost 200 kgs of meat was condemned on that day, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, what action has been taken against this particular supermarket?
Okay. So the usual process here is, again, I must impress upon consumers the fact that the council is an advocacy body. Yes, we will raise the issue, but for enforcement, we will always have to refer to another organization. And so when it comes to food, the enforcing body here is the Suva City Council's health department.
Okay.
So we will always go to the Suva City Council and ask representatives from the health department to go with us. So the process for condemnation is this. We find the meat, SCC, they issue the condemnation letter,
Right.
and then the process is the case is taken to court.
Okay.
It is the court that
Okay.
determines the penalty that that business will be facing.
Okay, but you are the ones who walk around and
Yes,
spot it.
we conduct the surveillance every now and then.
Too good, too good. And I mean, you've always found something bad.
Yes, and
Maybe it would be good if you did a surveillance and everything was good, right?
I think it's just, I don't, it boggles the mind how traders can continue to do it. Even when we bring up the issue and they face they are slapped with fines, some of them still reoffend, and I'm not sure what exactly is going on in their heads to sell the product. If they see that it's bad, do the right thing, just
Yeah.
remove it.
Honestly, I mean, would they like to eat that meat? Maybe we should. I think we should do it next time. Next time they go to court, say, "Okay, come here." We just get that meat that they were selling now and force them to eat it. I mean, okay, you eat it. You like it? Is it good? Okay, but a listener wants to know, Kalesi, why the council doesn't name the supermarket.
Again, like I said, the process is they're taken to court.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
so you're not allowed
So
to name.
SCC will have to go through the procedures that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Take it to court,
Yeah.
and it's during court
Then.
where the name is revealed.
Oh, so I'm going to be waiting for that again.
But
then.
that, of course, doesn't stop us from having to name repeat offenders, those who those businesses who have been taken to court and have been fined
Right.
and are still,
Still repeat
still
offenders.
selling putrid meat. Yes.
Okay, good. So I look forward to that as well. But on Speak Your Mind, I'm Louise Kaunisela, and this is Gold FM. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. I hope you're enjoying the program and, of course, keeping your mind that number 155 whenever you come across any dodgy seller or whatever complaint you have. And with us, of course, from the Consumer Council is a media officer, and it is Kalesi Mele. So we were talking about that horrible meat. I saw the pictures. Ooh.
Yeah. And that's one of the issues that we face on a regular basis. Our team is small. We can't, be everywhere at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So we always encourage our consumers,
Okay.
if they see this, they need to call 155
Mm-hmm.
so that we can go with the surveillance team can go along with the health department of SCC,
Yes.
and we can issue the condemnation letters to the businesses themselves.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a toll-free number anyway. I mean, what have you got to lose?
Sure.
Just get your mobile phone instead of going on Facebook, call 155. Yeah?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So a listener, another one, raised the point of how the guilty traders can easily pay a fine and just keep selling us bad food. So they were just inquiring, is there a law in place where they can actually be shut down as a good lesson not to reoffend?
Yes. There is. For food safety, there is a notice for closing order for those that are repeat offenders.
Oh, okay.
Or if the offense particularly has been severe in terms of the food safety breach. So the notice for closing order, it goes with food safety breach. So there's two things associated: the food safety breach as well as the building conditions. So you are first in breach of the Food Safety Act, and second the Public Health Act.
Okay.
Right. So if businesses are in breach of these two specific regulations, then the health department and the health department of municipal council, they can issue the notice of closing order.
Oh, so it is possible then. Okay. So hopefully that will frighten them not to sell us rotten meat then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's always important for businesses to adhere to the regulations, because once one of them has been given a notice for closing order, or an abatement notice, it becomes difficult for them to renew their licenses.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, if you're reoffending and if you're selling stuff like putrid meat, or the conditions in which these are kept are very bad, you need to consider the fact that your license could be difficult to renew.
Yeah, I'd really like that to be done because that is just the low of the lowest. I mean, selling rotten meat to people. Imagine the sicknesses that they can get. Well, I just don't want to talk about that anyway. But thank you very much, Kalesi. It's good to know. Now, in this health crisis we're facing, the COVID-19 pandemic, now specifically with rent payments, it's the understanding, right, between the landlord and the tenant to possibly reduce the rent. So are landlords actually helping out in this? But I know it's totally up to them. I think.
Of course, yes. It is up to the landlords to decrease. I hope some of them have helped. Usually the ones that come to the council are the complaints with which, not so much complaint, but seeking assistance to try and have their rent reduced because of the situation that they're in.
Okay.
But there has been no directive by the government
Yeah.
to reduce rent.
Okay.
We also have to consider some of the families, that's their only source of income.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, it goes back to the importance of saving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's
so-
like you're going to be really stuck if you don't
Yes.
have any savings.
Yes. So it's really important that you first communicate to your landlord as well. If you know you're facing a difficulty financially, and if you're stretched and you're unable to meet the rent payments, make sure you talk to your landlord at the earliest.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of them wait for the rent to be due. and then they say that, oh, I'm facing this difficulty.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's important to be forthcoming to your landlords.
Okay. So you have had a few people come by and
Yes, we have had a
ask
few people.
them what they ask you to ask on their behalf or something? Or?
Yes, a lot of them of the assumption that the government had given the
Oh,
directive
okay,
to
but
reduce
no,
rent, but there
yeah,
hasn't been. So we, from our part,
yeah.
we've just liaised with the landlords
But
on
you
their
did
behalf.
liaise with the
Yes.
landlord. That's very nice of you.
So we just go out of the way to help them because we understand that the circumstances right now is difficult for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you actually do that. That is something. And what was the reaction of the landlord when you approached them?
a lot of them were accommodating.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot
see,
of them were
very good,
accommodating.
very good.
But
I mean,
it's
it's their
harder.
prerogative,
Yes,
right? I
yes,
mean, you can't force them.
yes. It
Yeah.
can be harder for those whose sole income is dependent on the rent income.
Yes, that's a good point because if they had another
Yeah,
source of income, I'm sure they wouldn't mind. Eh?
yeah.
And depending also on the relationship between tenant and
Exactly. Yes.
landlord would be something that would be a contributing factor, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Of course, maybe they will also consider rent payments from before COVID-19 restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Again, when you're asking for a reduction in rent or a
Mm-hmm.
moratorium, of course, from the landlords,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to ensure that you've been a good tenant.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
yes. That's so true.
Sometimes landlords will consider that as well. Eh?
Yeah.
It's also important if you are still earning, please don't trick your landlords and try and get a reduction
Okay.
in
So
rent.
we have probably some people who are
Yes.
trying to do this as
Yeah.
well. Oh, my goodness me. Okay, well, that's clear enough. Thank you very much. And, well, a number of consumers, this is another one that I picked up on your website, early in the month had lodged complaints about moldy bread being sold to them. So,
Oh,
what advice did you give them?
check the bread before you take it home. One of the issues that we face is the fact that for a lot of the bread companies or the businesses that sell bread, they are household names.
Yeah.
If for instance, oh, it's the buy bread from this shop, and everybody from a different community could actually go and buy bread from that shop just because they assume that the bread there is the best or quality. And sometimes when you, with that in mind, you just go and buy it, and you fail to check whether or not the bread is good.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, again, it's our responsibility to check it properly.
Yes.
I mean, how can
But the
you?
onus is also on the traders to ensure that the products that they sell
Thank you. Yes.
is of good quality.
Yes, you are the watchdog. That's right. On Speak Your Mind, we'll be back shortly. Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. I hope you're enjoying the program and you're learning lots because we have from the Consumer Council, the media officer, Kalesi Mele. Now, about just another thing I was looking at, I think I've lost it now, well, my question that I had prepared. But anyway, I'll just go on to the Consumer Council of Fiji, warning us to be careful of COVID-19 charity scams. Can you give us an example of what happened?
Okay. So we've received some complaints from consumers about individuals that are going into homes and are purporting to be representatives from charity organizations or formal organizations asking for donations to help provide assistance to those affected, not just through COVID, but those affected by the natural disaster as well. Eh?
Wow.
And so for us at the council, this is a very grave issue because one, they're not going to the shops.
Yeah.
These people are going to their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important for consumers to understand or to decipher as to whether the person is genuine. Usually, if it's a representative from an organization or a legitimate charity organization, they usually don't collect the money on the spot. Yeah, they usually just come with the information package, and you will go to, say, for instance, a charity organization office, and that's where you put your donations.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's very fishy
Yeah.
if they ask for donations on the spot.
Yeah. So they actually even come in person,
Yes.
and it's also happening online.
Yes. Usually the information packages are just available there. The choice is yours as to whether or not you want to choose. But if somebody is coming home and is forcing you to donate on the spot, please ensure that you not provide any money.
Yeah.
Ask them for IDs.
Right.
Some ID is very important.
Okay.
Especially if for charity organizations, if they're deploying people to the communities to conduct awareness sessions, they will always provide them with identification cards.
Okay, thank you. I mean, you have to be really aware of things like this. Now, another one was on social media as well. It was about businesses who weren't carrying out the work in a proper manner. Can you explain more about what happens there?
Sure. So a lot of individuals are marketing their skills online, and some of them are purporting to have businesses, legitimate businesses, especially in unregulated markets like upholstery, like carpentry, plumbing. These are unregulated markets. And so there was a case recently where there was a consumer that paid $400 for upholstery work. And so they paid it upfront to this particular individual.
Online payment? Bank?
They paid it upfront in person.
Oh.
But they had found this particular individual online. And so that person took the money but never did the job.
Well, so that person must have really made it
Made an
enticing,
impression.
made
Yes.
an impression.
Yes.
Maybe he took photos of
Yes.
somewhere else and said, this is the work
Yes.
that I do or something.
Yes. And the setback of this is the fact that the contact that they had used was no longer working. There was no physical address to their business.
Oh,
And so it's important when you're dealing with traders online, these are the things that you need to look for.
Yeah, you need to explain that properly so no one can make the mistake. So
Yes.
you've said the...
Make sure that the contact is listed clearly.
Okay.
Also make sure that they have a physical address so that when you're trying to seek redress, you know where to go.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Because that person would have just been a stranger who
Yes.
turned up out of nowhere.
And what's worse is it's an unregulated market, so they set the price. So you wouldn't know if the price, say, of $1,000 for a particular piece of work is actually worth that or not. Yeah. And it's always important, again, to seek references from individuals that have already engaged traders, such as upholstery or carpentry or plumbing, and see whether or not they've had a good experience. That can help you in making your decision.
Okay, that's good advice. Okay, thank you very much. Now, maybe anything else that you'd like to highlight to the consumer to be careful of, especially in this time of difficulty that we're facing, anything at all that you'd like to advise a consumer?
Yes, misleading advertisements. There can be situations where the prices that are advertised are actually more than the prices the sale price, point of sale prices, or it can be vice versa. The point of sale is more than the advertised price. We've experienced a few issues of that recently.
So that means that they're advertising it for this price, but when you go to the supermarket, it's higher.
It's higher.
Oh my goodness me, why would they do that?
Exactly. So if that's the case, say for instance, you're in a supermarket and the shelf price says $2.95 and you go to the point of sale and it says $3.95. You as a consumer, you have the right to inform them, look, it's advertised as $2.95. That is the price that you need to include in your point of sale system.
Yes, and you can pay that proper price. Yes.
Exactly. So the advertised price is what you pay.
Right.
Unless there was a legitimate error on their part. Say, for instance, if they're advertising on a newspaper and they have a catalog. They have a catalog and it's on the newspaper and they have an error. It's the trader's responsibility to advertise again with that same newspaper.
Yes.
And correct the price.
And if they haven't, then it's your right to take it on that price. You can tell them, look, this is what I saw. There was no correction.
Yes.
Therefore, give it to me you have to give it to me on this price, and there's no two ways about it.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice to know. Okay, that's a good one. Anything else?
Again, if you're facing any issues, especially with your loan repayments, and your high purchase accounts, it's important that you come to the council at the earliest. We've had a few issues at the council where some consumers leave it too late, and some of them to the extent where they've lost their homes because they've left it too late. So it's important. If you're asking for a restructure, please ensure that you come at the earliest. Because if it's left too late, then we may not be in a position to assist.
So thank you very much, Kalesi Mele, for giving us all the great advice on behalf of the Consumer Council. Until next time, Vinaka Vakalevu.
Vinaka.
Thank you very much for your company on Speak Your Mind. I hope you enjoyed the program. Until next week, you take care, stay safe. Nisamo Demanda.